So hello and welcome to today's episode of Live Feature Rant for Landmark and Request Next, but mostly Landmark. So, speaking of Landmark, we had an off week this week, so, light on the news, heavy on the touring stuff in-game on the Landmark live show, but here we are, we've got some awesome stuff to talk about, and you might recognize on screen left one of the very first guests here on Live Feature Rant, Curamach, and he's also a builder in the community here who you folks have probably seen if you've been seeing builds and stuff in the community. So why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are and give a little introduction here?
Well, since last time, or the first time that was on here, I had this whole big spiel of like what the intro, and I completely forgot it as soon as you asked me the question. So this time I wrote it down. I try to keep it short, but my little keynotes it says so I've been a gamer since I was 6 years old. My first game was Doom, right? So great parenting, right? 6-year-old playing Doom, fighting the aliens.
Just a video game,
but it's just parents did not read the M for mature on the box at all. But it goes to show, like, right, video games. Why am I not shooting up, places right now? Because I'm not the way.
Yeah, no, because the controls are good.
Yeah, the Doom was. There's still, though. Honestly, there are still rooms in Doom that I refuse to go in. Like those really black rooms that are it's just so dark in there you can't see anything. Nope, won't go in them.
So how do you finish the first chapter?
Yeah, I finished Doom. It's just a lot of those I only went in those rooms if I absolutely had to, and the whole time I was like having a nervous breakdown while I was in there. It was the worst.
Gotcha.
Give me. But yeah, the longest game I've played is WoW. I did that for like 7 years, and I still play it off and on. But the current things is I'm in Sea Crew. Like if anyone's seen Sea Crew running around, we've been in like a kind of group of people, like-minded people since Alpha. And yeah, I really liked everybody's personality, and everybody in Sea Crew is so friendly and helpful. We're constantly, like, for instance, this ogre stuff, me, Hannah, and Lisk and Gondor, we've been, all next to each other, bouncing ideas off each other. That's a great way to build, by the way. Like, you just find a group of people, even if you don't build the same way, build together and visit each other often, because they'll give you ideas and you give them ideas. It's just great. It's an awesome thing to work together.
For sure.
But yeah, I'll stop there because that was kind of long.
That's fine. And Adam, why don't you, I guess, say hello to the folks here?
Hello, folks. How you doing?
Don't you like the nice new camera angle and the new addition to the desk
It's
there,
a work
everybody?
in progress. In a couple of weeks it'll change again. So hey,
Yeah.
So yep. So having to pack up and move, but I have a pretty good idea where I'm going to end up. So I should have internet access and still be able to be on the show and all of that fun stuff. So it is what it is. Yay, moving.
Cool deal.
But anyway, it's me, Adam. I'm here as usual. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Yeah, no, the move is, I hope things go well with that, but, yeah, so we, I was just at GDC Next. It was a lot of fun. They're front and center when you walk in the door is a bunch of indie devs. Like, I got approximately this pile of cards of all just indie devs who I'm going to be following up with and playing their games over the next month or so. And
Gotcha.
It's all sorts of stuff. A lot of puzzle platformers, competitive games, cooperative games, a couple of sandboxes. So a little bit of this and that. A lot of fun stuff though. Even though it was focused on mobile, actually a lot of the stuff was available for Steam for PC. So
Okay.
good for folks who like I guess iOS and Android and PC stuff. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm not getting into too much. If you want to learn more about that stuff, watch my other shows, not my landmark stuff. Anyway, so I'm just gonna kind of breeze over a little bit of the stuff that they talked about, and we'll kind of get into the competition rules a little bit because they actually kind of went into some of the detail of what it's going to be about. So, they did some in-game tours today. You know, they talked about a bit of stuff, and Dave has less hair, and it sounds like he's going to be sticking with less hair for the next little while here. And yeah, that's fine. It's a cool deal. You know, it's definitely a lot less shampoo and, like I said, $10 haircut. So that works.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, can't blame him. I'm just surprised they said the hair's in the dumpsters. Like, oh, I'm surprised I wasn't donated. But
I kind of thought the same thing. Actually, I was like,
It might have been like
the remember the woman in SOE Live that ran her fingers through his hair? They should have sold it to her.
Well, there are actual groups that support like cancer chemo patients and stuff like that by making them wigs and things like that. So that's why I think that's what Nero was talking about.
Yeah. No, I don't think. I don't know that it's necessarily thrown away. You might say the dumpster. I don't know. The barbershop might actually, take all their hair and do stuff with it or something. Who knows? But the point is, it ain't on his head anymore, and it's quite noticeable.
Oh yeah, well, it's definitely a whole different look, and now he just looks all clean cut, and less rock star, more corporate.
Yeah.
Hey,
Diggs. When you were working with Dave, did he have a ponytail, or did he have more of the hair that he's got right now? Because you were working with him a little ways back. I don't know how long he's had the ponytail going, but
the hair that he had to have had going for quite some time.
Yeah.
To have what he had, the way he had it.
That's true. So, some of the stuff that they talked about that's going to be coming up.
Diggs says he was too old for a ponytail. Diggs, you are never too old for a ponytail.
Some people, that's all the hair they've got left is a little bit back there.
Hey, yeah. But anyway, Locks for Love, by the way, was the name of the organization I was thinking of. So thank you for that in the chat. Anyway, you were going to move on. Go ahead.
For sure. Claim vendors. I don't know when exactly they said we're getting those claim vendors. It's definitely in this push to greatness that's going on. This 2 months of greatness that they're going to be working on, getting all the stuff in over the next couple of months. So I'm not sure. I'm hoping it's coming soon, but it's ultimately going to be tied to the currency system. Motes, MOTES, I believe, is what they said the currency. So we're going to have motes and emotes and SOE mote, and I maybe would have changed it to something else. But hey, whatever. It's beta. If it doesn't work, we can, recommend that they change it to something else. I like credits.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
About the vendors in general?
Yeah, like the vendor tables and the currency system, and kind of, we're going to be getting those things coming up soon. So, just general thoughts on it, and what do you like about it and don't like?
I mean, yeah, it's gonna happen sooner or later, but I just hope that it's not just like, I do like the credits, because if it's supposed to be genre agnostic, doesn't really make sense to have gold coins, and like if somebody's trying to make a sci-fi thing, right? So just credits is like a good general thing that they could call it. But I saw somebody ask in chat during the stream, but it didn't get answered. But I thought it was interesting how we should be able to sell like the vendors somehow, like not remove templates from the SOE store, but be able to at least advertise like any templates that we have submitted to the store on these NPC vendors. So if you go visit somebody's claim, you can just visit this vendor and see all their templates without having to search them in the store. That would be cool.
That would be a nice feature.
Yeah, I'm get your drinks ready, but having your own vendor in your own shop in Star Wars Galaxies was a huge draw. You made it your showroom. It was a very cool thing to do, and I've not seen anything like it since. And I bring it up consistently on the show that there's a lot of these neat elements that are very RP themed, and friendly.
That reminds me of a friend of mine who, when he was playing the game, he was a top-notch weapon maker, like Wookiee, had all the special equipment and everything, completely specialized. One time, he put grenades on the vendor, and the next, hour or two, there was just all those grenades being bought and thrown at the other side as everyone was trying to buy those grenades off the vendor and use it to kill the people buying grenades off the vendor. So he said, after that, no more. That drove me nuts. No more grenades. I was only doing bulk deals away from my home after that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I still remember there was. I was about to wonder if that it might have been the same person, your friend that you were talking about, because there was. I remember this was. I think it was before the days of the auction house. Like, you could look up on the galactic auction house or whatever. You could look somebody up, but you couldn't buy the item there. You had to actually get the coordinates to their store and then actually go to their shop in order to buy the thing. And I remember there was trying to find a gun or something for one of my characters or some kind of weapon, and there was only one person that sold it, and they were off in some backwater thing on Corellia, I think, or whatever the grassy plains planet was. I think it was Corellia.
Corellia,
but yeah.
Or Talos. Talos may have been.
And the thing is, I had all that the thing on the market has was the coordinates for the city, and this was a huge one of those huge player cities. There was easily 200 buildings. So since there was no coordinates for the exact shop, I had to go door to door, basically knocking on everyone's door, "Hi, do you sell weapons?" So I would love for something like that to be in Landmark, but I doubt that it would ever be done again.
I would want it to be more organized than that. Unfortunately, well, actually, here's something I would really want as an item, is something that it's a used item that you craft and you have in your inventory. When you go on a claim, you can access your buyer's clipboard or whatever, and it gives you a list of all of the vendors available on that claim, because they've said they initially only wanted to have one vendor per claim, but or that's all they were considering, but people might want to have a market bazaar, or maybe you buy your weapons by the blacksmithing area, and you buy your consumables by the alchemy station or whatever. So it's some of the markets and stuff are segmented, and I also don't know about people using them as temporary storage for things like volumes and volumes of dirt and crap.
Oh, well, no matter what, you're going to have people that was a given. That was something that a lot of merchants did. They stored large stacks of resources for ridiculous prices. So if you're willing to pay a ridiculous price, sure, here you go. But otherwise, it's just sitting here in the vendor, not taking up inventory. A couple things. One, there's a couple comments talking about, saying that the vendors in Star Wars Galaxies were NPCs. Not all the vendors were. You had they're right. You could have, and most went with NPCs that would animate or talk to you when you got within range of them, that kind of thing. But they were essentially just something you clicked and it brought up an inventory screen. That's it, Otherwise, it just became a lot of spatial spam over time with all the chat bubbles, and them just blah, blah, and here's my specials. But it was an interesting way to communicate with your client base. But the real good thing about sort of that whole setup was it was the players who would get together and build a mall, and you would have everybody my crafting thing, the thing I took the furthest and the longest was being a shipwright, and I did it really well, and at one point I had several satellite vendors in different malls, people were inviting me to say, hey, can you stock, X, Y, and Z here, and we'll let you set up a vendor. And I always used, terminals. I always use data looking terminals for vendors. I wasn't a big fan of NPCs, but that idea of being able to, have players come together, build themselves a totally awesome player-made mall, and then give players shop fronts, so they can set out different things. That would be very, very cool, They had, refresh my memory, correct me here, they had said that this was going to be a case of they're not going to be NPC. They're going to be like a crafting table.
Yeah, it's going to be a table prop for now, and they said they'll potentially be not only adding more vendor props, but also potentially variations on the current one, where you select who's actually the vendor, what NPC type or whatever is the vendor, so you can have the greedy goblin or the sassy lady or whatever. I don't know what options they're going to have, but
so there's definitely that option for it. And like Arundel saying, you had 3 or 4 people actually buy stacks of factory crates in game going back to Galaxies. Oh yeah, any adventurer out there would totally buy stuff by the crate if they were any sort of regular adventurer. They were stacking up on stuff that they needed for their heroic runs by the crate, not by by individual stacks. So there's some great stuff there, and obviously they know it. There's some room to grow with it. So I think it's a very neat idea, and I'm glad it's coming sooner rather than later.
For sure. And I'm really excited for the currency system because copper's dumb. I'd rather just mine Ethereum and sell that for currency.
I mean, it makes sense. Some generic credit is fine by me. If they went gold coins, it wouldn't bother me either. That's a very generic.
Well, I go with credits because it actually goes back to Latin. So while it works for sci-fi, it actually works just as well for ancient and beyond. So it's pretty generic.
Yeah, I can totally see mall set up in Landmark too, like that. That's one of the things that I want to go. It's like one of those like goals to work on over the years. Eventually, when they allow us to have so many claims that I can build my own city, I would love to build a whole city that has like a market square, a guild house section, it's like a city with different sectors basically, and that'd be fun.
Yeah. And eventually it'll get there, I'm sure.
Yeah, Ramaj, no, we don't need to romance our NPC props. Just
let us saying sassy lady vendor.
Give us story breaks.
BioWare so you can romance your vendors.
You can romance the sassy lady merchant that Diggs makes, because I know he's going to be making all sorts of interesting. Credit is much more associated with sci-fi. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Creds, I don't know. They could go.
Keep it simple.
Bits.
Keep it simple. Like the fantasy games are always doing the, platinum, gold, copper, silver, nickel. Like
EverQuest.
Forget that. Yeah, like EverQuest 2, exactly. Like I don't want that, and I don't want like copper, Ethereum. No, I don't want that. I want like a single thing.
Well, right.
No matter what we call it, at the end of the day, it's just numbers on my screen. Really,
I like the platinum thing because platinum is pretty genre agnostic, and at the same time, the original EQ had it. So I think platinum would be perfect.
What was the stuff they used in Star Trek? Was it gold pressed platinum or something?
Gold, platinum. It was Latinum.
Latinum.
What they were always Latinum. Just basically platinum without the P.
Yeah. What the hell? Ain't got no P. That's some sort of weird stuff. Well, whatever. They'll figure it out. I'm hoping that it's something that actually it's something I'd rather have as a feature, that we can designate what the vending table says for the currency. It's just a generic sort of thing. It just shows up as a coin in our inventory. But when you go to the merchant,
it's just numbers on your screen.
Yeah, exactly. So someone might want to have gold coins on their claim, and another person might want to have, credits on their claim. Another person might want, people might just name it by the currency related to their stuff, like
that's what it will be behind
neuro
the system.
tokens.
It's just currency. It's just currency behind, in the system. It's just currency, and then again, depending on what environment you're in and what the player has created, it will be credits, script, boogas, Nero coins, atomic coins, whatever,
I don't know. Paying in boogas, it sounds dangerous.
Mana, if you want to get crazy about it, you could, hey, pay me in mana, But, so it's,
manatees.
It's not bad.
All right.
Exactly.
So let's, any last thoughts on that? Otherwise, we can move it along
I think we beat that into the ground.
Okay. So they kind of gave a short list of the various. Why not marks? I think marks was the thing that we wanted to use for the measurement, because they're not actually meters. We wanted, I think, marks as the standard term for the unit of measure in Landmark.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, marks would work for the currency too. Like I'm not gonna get into that stuff. You kids look it up where marks became a part of a currency. Anyway,
okay.
Mobs, caves, loot, ley lines, all of that stuff they want to have in the next 2 months. The monsters are going to be in December. They said they want a full game that people can just start right on into next year. Hopefully they'll have linking and triggering this year, but no guarantees. But they did say no guild claims before open beta. And really, I'm fine with that. I still think they have a lot of work to do on the guild system anyway, so no reason to rush it and have a claim system based on something that probably needs to get modified to begin with. Bacon strips.
Well, I don't know. If you think about it, a game like this is going to be heavily supported by guilds. So I don't know if that might be a good idea or not, but yeah.
But it's the idea that if they have to keep changing the mechanics for how the guild claims work, because they change how the system works, like they make it that you have to have a certain number of people to be able to have a claim, and that used to be they didn't have that requirement for whatever sort of thing. They could do all sorts of changes to the system that would require either everybody to kind of lose all their guild claims, which they definitely don't want to do. And that might be another thing, is they might not know how they're going to do like template management and stuff or ownership for a guild claim, and there could be some other issues with that they're still working out, unique ways so that everybody gets credited and nobody gets screwed if they're participating. No idea. I am excited for linking and triggering, though. That's going to be good stuff. Open a door, it turns the light on, then a boxing glove comes shooting at you and punches you right in the face. That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. My Minecraft friends who are interested in Landmark, but they refuse to try Landmark until those systems get in, because that's all they did in Minecraft. Like they would just build those.
Yeah.
Like they were the ones, those giant machines that everybody loves. So the giant computers and stuff like that. But since none of that is, they have no interest. Like they're not into just purely building like I am.
Yeah, and that's something that I know we've been waiting on it to go in the game. They've been waiting for it to go in the game. Like Dave, I'm sure, is like in there every day, like, come on, if we've got the test version, but I want the real deal. Or maybe not. I don't know how far along they are with it. Probably pretty far. It doesn't seem like something.
They wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't closer, sooner rather than later.
Well, like they said, they're hoping they could get it to us this year. That definitely it's a fair thing for them to keep it off the plate, because we know they always do the break at the end of the year. I think 2 or 3 weeks off in December, and I still have no idea if they're planning to do the PlanetSide 2 grind model, where 3 people or half the people take their 3-week vacation, and then another half the people take their 3-week vacation, and then once everybody's back, they take a few weeks trying to reconnect and get back on track. Because it seemed like it might have kept production going, but it seemed like it was from an outsider's perspective, that is really hard for them to get back on track and get into the rhythm of things afterward. So, however they do it, I hope it works out well. I hope they just take 3 weeks altogether and just, someone comes in here and there, whatever, to resolve any issues. No idea how it's going to go down. I wish I knew more.
For such a big system as NPCs, well, at least to me, I think it's a big system. Maybe to them, it's not that big. I don't know. Maybe they don't need a full team to initiate it.
Well, the other thing with NPCs is everybody's just going to be standing around because there was not really any pathing. Like, we would probably actually have to place them in the world and maybe even place their feet in the world. Because until they've got all the pathing and proper inverse kinematics detection of procedural voxel terrain, voxel and props, I should say, because that's another factor. They're not going to walk over voxels and then come to a prop that they can walk across. It's like, oh no, I don't know what to do here. It's a wall painting. It's not a conventional bridge. So that's one of the other aspects, is being able to path over and around things that are kind of unconventional. So it's a lot of work. They're hopefully getting pretty close with it. It sounds like it's a tough system. The folks I was just chatting with yesterday at GDC Next, My Dream, they're saying that's one of the features they're feeling confident about, but it's still just in test, and they've been working on that project for a little while too. So it's, I think, one of those things that probably a lot of folks have been chasing is the good procedural pathing on a voxel world. And I really honestly haven't tried manipulating the world of Planet Explorers that much and then trying to train mobs into it and how that works, but that game does have definitely, I don't know if it's necessarily procedural, but it's definitely voxel and full of deformation, so it's really easy to manipulate the terrain.
If they have trouble with us players and sometimes going over voxel terrain, I can only imagine NPCs.
Well, like Dick says, and this is kind of important to clarify, that pathing is in, but not good enough to handle the voxel destruction. Again, the environments aren't static, so it isn't easy for them to just say to the NPC, navigate around here, because around there can change and regenerate over time.
Absolutely. I just imagine what the mobs would be trying to do, your little NPCs, if somebody set up like a Dota-style MOBA map and somebody just drops a whole pile of boulders or whatever in one path. So it's like, okay, there's just no going through that path. It's just not possible. And then just seeing how they try to path through the jungles or whatever to get to their objective and keep the battle going. No idea if that would actually even be a consideration, if that's the sort of thing people would be able to build in, but it's definitely a possibility. Hopefully, like I've been saying, maybe about 5 months or so, I'm thinking up to that point. Hope so. So we talked about, and then we talked about mobs. We've been really excited about caves, the tier 1 through tier 5, going through all the depth. That's going to be really nice. The ley line system is going to tie into that, because if you don't want to start at the top and dig all the way down for an hour just to get into the tier 5, you can just take a ley line crystal down, and that's going to be really nice.
That's going to be interesting.
I enjoy caves, but I won't ever be excited for caves until I can build in them, because I'm a builder.
I feel you. I get you. And I don't know if that's going to be a thing for a while, because that would mean basically claiming something that's ever-changing procedural space and kind of turning a segment into it into a kind of a static part of your own build. So,
well, I'm not like every single cave being buildable, but have like certain caves have, like, I don't know, do the code or something. Have certain caves like they pop in and out still, so you have to be lucky. Like, it's like you have to search for the right caves that allow you to build, and if you're lucky enough to find one, you put a claim down real fast before it changes, and then boom, you're locked in there.
Well, you can kind of build your own cave system, though.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. As someone who had built like 3 or 4 of them, it is not fun.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it's that's work. I'm not dismissing that by any means.
Yeah, it's very tedious to do. It's somewhat fun, but it's very tedious. Like just having to paint everything, build every little thing. But yeah.
So we have a question here from Maximilian. Does anybody know the current practical distance limits on platform movers and teleporters? I have no idea. It feels like teleporters go farther than they used to without needing the loading. Platform movers, no idea. It seems like they've been kind of broken recently. So,
Yeah, I don't use them at all. I tried to make one PvP claim and I didn't really play with them that much.
I know Defense has the Temple of Care that had the platform movers going well over 2 claim, or well over like a claim and a half of distance, and it worked just fine. You didn't fall off. It wasn't like too choppy or chunky. So your platform mover stopped working. Yeah, that's something got broken with those recently. When I was visiting Dave Georgeson's claim and I saw his elevators weren't working, it's like, okay, something's not right here.
Clearly not just me.
Yeah.
Exactly. If it's broken on the dev's claim, it's clearly broken, period.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll be being able to address that in the next update here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the competition rules. The competition rules are going to be changing going forward. And it's kind of
for the
weird for the workshop competitions and potentially other competitions as well. So
this is just how they're going to handle it moving forward.
I feel really weird about it. Now I'm going to start with the last note that I wrote about the subject. They want us to try to fuck this system up. They requested for us to do what we can to break it, to make a mess of it, to make it unusable and unviable as a way to organize the competition. So that way they can see what's wrong with the system and actually be able to fix it. But unfortunately, I don't know how much of that is going to mess with the actual contest itself and people actually being able to see the the builds, because there's a lot of people I've never seen on content and creations that are finalists in the various build contests, and the only way I would have known about them is if I actually know them or somebody who knows them and was directed to it. So it's kind of a weird thing, the idea that the how it's going to work. So let me explain exactly how it's going to work. They're getting away from the need for templates. No more need for templates. Templates are not how you submit. You submit by claim. And it's going to be initially for the landmarks of Landmark, it was a claim-based submission. Then they switched it up to templates for the Dark Elves and the Karens. But now they're switching back to the claim-based, but I think they've maybe improved upon it where you can do more than just a single claim, because for the Landmarks of Landmark, it was just a single size of claim that you could actually work with. But now there's builds and there's stuff that is potentially larger than one claim that they're asking for. Like, I think the bridge segments are like 1 to 1.5 claims long is what they're looking for. So that's definitely over one claim, especially to be functional. So I think they're actually going to be expanding it so that we'll be able to put more than one claim into it. It'll probably be like the root claim and the attachments that all go in as a submission. Though I don't know if that's how it's going to work, because everyone always has their laboratories nearby, and if they want to keep working on stuff, that kind of makes things a little bit weird. But I guess that'll be a consideration with the submission process. And now here's why they switched to that, is for player voting. They want to use the upvote system, and they're not picking like the top 5 entries. They're picking a percentage of the top entries. So let's say there's 1,000 entries, maybe they'll take the top 200. They didn't really specify the numbers at all. but or maybe they'll take the top 500 and use those for the judging. But I think what that unfortunately means is anybody who doesn't get at least a few thumbs up during the voting period for one reason or another just isn't going to get considered, because it sounds like they're not going to take a second look through things that were submitted but never got any attention. I don't know if there's going to be I guess there's going to be some sort of a curated section where you can go through and check out all of the builds and vote up on them or not if you want to. But if not, then it really is just going to be people going to builds that they know or that they see a lot, and those ones are going to be getting a lot more attention than ones that are built way out on the edge of the claim or on the edge of an island rather, on an island doesn't have much attention, and they only play during times when not a lot of people are on, and they don't really know too many people, but they made an awesome, amazing build.
How were they choosing which ones they were looking at last time?
For the Karen contest, we all submitted our templates, and they individually went through all of them, every single one. They didn't take cues from the community. They just, we're going to look at each and every single build. We'll, they probably do phases of sorting some out, and then finally come to their, their winners and their notable mentions or whatever. Colin, were you going to say something? Yeah.
Because that takes a long time, but at the same time, a purely popularity contest, I would hope that they still check each individual one, but if they just went off of upvotes, that could be easily exploited.
That's kind of what I'm thinking is, that's totally going to be abused.
And that's what they're saying, is they want us to abuse it. They want us to do bad things with the system so that way they can fix it. And I'm hoping when they say that, they're understanding that we are going to break the system, and they are going to have to fix the system, and they're going to have to basically do the entire process from scratch. They're not going to be able to rely on the player voting, and entries that were weeded out by that system are actually all viable, valid entries because the system's broke. Honestly, I don't know why they decided. I guess they're trying to lighten their workload or something, and they're hoping the system works, but I just don't see it,
Maybe they found through the last couple of contests that only the top 30-40% of the submissions are actually worth looking at, bottom line.
Based on what makes them top.
Well, you know what I mean? Like going through and looking at all the submissions for, say, the landmarks of Landmark, right? Without having anybody screen them ahead of time. It was just, all right, well, here's what we got. We got to lay them all out here. We got to lay them all, whatever. Maybe they realized that, okay, out of these 200 submissions, only 80 were really great, or only 100, or you know what I mean. They have enough data to see that of all the submissions, the ones that actually meet the quality standards they're shooting for, are only 50% of the submissions or 40%. So by letting players vote, maybe they're hoping that this will help just float that stuff to the top right away. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
I don't know. I've got my reservations about it, and I've got my reservations about doing one of the race builds for this sort of thing instead of like a PvP arena build or something, because that's fine if there's an issue with a PvP build, contest. You can run it again. You can just go with that and do another one, whatever. Someone will win a popularity contest, maybe not. But
I don't know. I suppose though, does it still puts the onus on them to kind of because you can vote for your own thing, right?
Yeah, but that's one vote. That's
all right.
Nothing.
No, you're right, but you know what I mean. Like you, and then you get a friend. All right. You know what I mean. All right. So maybe they do find a way to all right, maybe we skim through real quick the low ones, and if we see something that catches our eye, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I I find it hard to believe they would intentionally be leaving anybody out who might actually bring something to the table that's worth looking at, you know? And again, not to be harsh, but not everything makes is a fucking prize, you know? Like,
Right.
not everything that has gone in is really worth the time to drop into the world, look at it, study it. How about this? What about, you know, they can tell at a glance, oh, no, that's a piece of shit. Sorry. You know, not everyone gets a gold star for trying.
But at the
You know,
same time,
we've had that talk before, you know?
I feel like a thumbs up is also not enough. Like, let us
No, I agree.
give our
I agree.
explanation, like an actual detailed explanation for each build with our thumbs up or our feedback as to,
but-
you know,
But then that becomes just as much work as, you know, them looking at each and every submission personally, because now instead they're reading thousands of players' essays on why something is supposed to be looked at. You know,
well, they
Like,
can have a
it's
character
streamlining
limit.
of work.
I think it'd be hard to even
But you're
convince
right.
people to write those things because
And then-
it's
but
hard
you're-
enough to get right?
Yeah,
Much less
yeah.
comment.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there. Could you say that again, please?
It's hard enough to get people to vote to begin with. I mean, even in real life, much less a game. But it's like it's hard to get people to do that, and then you want them to also comment too.
No,
Most
it's
of
an
the time-
option. Leave it as an optional thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're right. There's definitely more to a build than just a screenshot, you know, in a couple of upvotes.
Most screenshots don't show artifacting. Most screenshots don't show bad weld points. Most screenshots don't show when the roof isn't reinforced from below. So, you know, screenshots, that only gets me to look at the thing. That's not enough to, you know, let me give it a thumbs up or not.
I agree, though. There is real concern that, you know, some of the super streamers, the super guilds with hundreds and hundreds of people, those groups will be all about jacking the system. I mean, but, you know, those groups have good builders. You know, let's not put down the talent there, but yeah, there's definitely concern there. You know, we'll have to see how it plays out, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So any last thoughts? I guess the one thing is they really wanted to hammer home that it's building phase, then voting phase, then judging phase is how it's going to work now. So they're going to involve us in the process, for better or for worse, and we'll see how it goes with the ogre stuff.
Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So-
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't life and death, you know, but still. It does seem a bit like, I mean, who knows? Maybe they just genuinely have so much on their plate right now that and maybe this bodes well for the community, the active players who are really, really engaged in all the building. Maybe they just trust, you know, players like Nero. They trust your judgment, you know, that you know what to, like, players like you and people who are invested like us know what to look at when you're looking at something that's being submitted for potentially being included in something like EverQuest Next. You know, like you mentioned, you know, are the roofs reinforced? You know, how is this point meeting this? You know, all of that stuff that the average person may not notice, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I personally can't look at 2,000 builds. You know, if I started now, if all the builds were ready now and I started, maybe, you know, in all the time that I spend doing all of my streaming, I'd be able to give, you know, proper feedback on all of them and maybe come to a top 100 list or something. But
See, there you go.
You know.
See, even you would be then calling it, but you would at least be looking at all of them. But, you know, yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, who knows? I don't think they're getting thousands of submissions, though. I suspect it's more like hundreds.
yeah, at this point, especially it depends on how many they allow us to submit. If it's going to be like just one per person, I think it's actually as many as you have functional things to submit. So if you've got like the wall segment, and you've got the bridge, and you've got the front gate, and you've got, you know, a couple of the other main things that they kind of ask for, the modular segments, then you just kind of submit those. Though I don't know how that's going to work with, you know, the submission process. Are people going to have to roll up alts if they've got more than you know, 4 things that they want to submit or whatever, or 2 things that they want to submit? and it's basically the thing's got to stay in the world during the judging process. So you're really committing to it. You're really locked in. There's definitely, it's a part of the process they have to do, though, if they want to allow the players to be able to vote on things.
Well, I mean, in that, I mean, and there may not be a bad thing, like making sure players are committed to really wanting to be in this contest. By having to commit the voxel storage to that kind of build.
I mean, I still have my Karen build up. I'm still waiting for the contest to finish. But I am starting my ogre stuff, though.
And to point out, like Melon is saying, these changes make them pretty unmotivated to actually build, knowing it might not win a popularity contest. I definitely can see how that's going to be a real issue and rightfully so. Moving forward.
Well, Mello, you get attention on content creation, so you don't have to worry. But it's the awesome builders who don't that I am definitely worried about in the same way. Curamach, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that, I mean, I know I don't take this as I'm trying to be mean, but it's just an observation of if you're participating in these contests, your goal should be to try and help SOE make the style guides. It shouldn't be to try and win the contest. I don't know. That just like.
Well, then why is it a competition then instead of a collaboration?
I mean, we're doing. I mean, there's a lot of that going on too. But when you have a contest, again, not everybody gets a prize. And let's be honest. I was predicting they were going to do some crazy stuff with the winners of these contests, and the winning, other than like, hey, your stuff's in the world with the plaque, for those winners. Other than that, the items to win have been kind of lame. So just an observation.
That might be the reason why they keep them lame, so that way people aren't trying to do them just to win the stuff.
It's more of a prestige thing than anything else, and that's totally legit. I get that. You will be a cool kid when you can point in in EverQuest Next and go, you see this thing here? I made this. And then they quit the game 3 months later because they think it sucks, and then they're on to the next new flavor of what's going to be hot, and it'll be funny. Like all of I'll mark my words, like half of the items, 2/3 of the items that'll be built in the world by players for launch in Next. Those people won't be playing the game a year after it's out. It'll be ironic that they'll be immortalized in the game forever and they're not around.
Well, I did that with Vanguard. I had a server first for one of the kind of crappy item craftings, and it's like, well, nobody's ever going to make the intelligence low level staff. It makes no sense to make it, but damn it, I invented the first one. But I don't know that's necessarily going to be true. I think at this point, the people that are sticking around that would actually take the time and effort to make something for EQ Next are the people that are going to be sticking around. They might be at the point where they're so invested and all of their friends are so invested that even if they don't like it, if all of their friends are still playing it, they're going to still play it anyway. So I'm not too worried about that sort of thing. But yeah, there will probably be some stuff, and there'll always be mortality claims people, so there'll definitely be items of people who have passed on. I don't know if there'll be like special sales for charity or how or to benefit their families or how that's going to work, but that hasn't really come up yet. It's a very small group of people who are actually making stuff for Player Studio, and as far as I know, we're all pretty damn healthy. So being that, sorry, go ahead.
No, it was a passing thought.
Yeah, no. Just stay optimistic, damn it. Anyway, so
that's a big lesson to itself. There's a lot of people who see something awesome and get disappointed for something like, oh, I can never build that. You have to stay optimistic.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't get to be good at building just because you watch stuff and look at builds. Play around with it, poke voxels here and
you
there.
get there you get good by being able to manipulate and interact in the world and manipulate the tools and do what you got to do. Be able to navigate the interface, so to speak. That's a huge one for people, man.
The interface?
Well, not just in this game, in general, like technology, period, today. I have a lot of folks around me of varying ages. You know how many times I was thinking about this because a neighbor came on to work at the Halloween gig with me, and watching her struggle to do the most basic computer navigation stuff. After all these years, after owning multiple computers, after being shown a gazillion times, still like... So, and I kept seeing it on Twitter last night with the voting, with people voting, watching friends joke about how they couldn't figure out to touch the next button on the poll screen and, making jokes about, people not being able to navigate technology. So just in general, being able to get in and navigate, use an interface that's as complicated as something like, Landmark, and being able to build in a world in 3D space is, something that takes time to get used to, even if you are computer savvy,
Well, one thing that speeds the process along is when you have friends. You can learn stuff together. That's how so many of the great things are built is, oh, look what I did. How'd you do that? And they show each other how they did that, and they take it back home. They put it on their claim, and then they do something to it that changes it up. And it's like, oh wait, how did you do that? I'll show you this. It's great when you have a group of people. They don't have to be friends. Join a guild. And go build near them. You don't have to build on a guild claim. Build near them, bounce ideas off each other. To me, it changes the game up entirely. It makes the game really fun and interesting because you're doing that just thing together.
For sure. So, you guys ready to talk about ogres?
Yes.
I have no choice, don't I?
Yeah. All right.
I am down to my...
What was that?
remember when you were reviewing my claim? It's like, need to tie him down to my bed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've got those freaky ogre beds.
That's because I was I was kind of writing my own little lore thing. I figured ogres, they're trying to focus on their being tough and martial prowess and that type of thing. I kind of pictured ogres when it comes to bedroom stuff as being kind of like Klingons. They're kind of rough, right? They maybe bite each other or wrestle. And
the fact that the fact that you've given this extensive thought and that you were actually able to correlate it to yet another fictional warrior race on top of it is a little creepy. I'm not gonna lie.
What's creepy about it?
It was a joke.
Makes perfect sense to me. Alright, so I put up the slide here. It's covering the screen for everybody here. We have the Ogre City build that we got to see. Or the concept art for it, rather. So there's a lot of themes that we see a lot of here and that we see in a lot of the other things. So I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between this and a few other images. So this one is just kind of showing a little bit of the color and how everything's kind of got that jungle growth a little bit on everything, up over the walls, on top of the buildings. It's growing out from where they've left nature intact. Now, keep in mind, look at the little people on the path and then look at the various features. Then look back at the people and look at the features. Look back at the people, look at the features. Take in the scale of this place. It is huge. That water basin thing in the lower right, that's like 20-30 feet tall. That banner there is like 50, 60, 80 feet tall or something. It's huge. This stuff is gigantic. You're walking in, you're not even getting up to the top of the third, that lower third of the columns that they were talking about. These things are gigantic. This is like monumental size, just massive. So one of the things that's we see a lot, there's like triangles, trapezoids, angular cuts. Another shape that gets communicated a lot is cylindrical horizontal, not vertical. Vertical cylinders aren't really very present. We see those kind of, that spirally looking thing on the wall on the left, but that's a little bit different. I'm guessing that's part of some symbology or something. But the I guess look at the water basin once again. Those fire pits, the braziers that are up on those columns where the walkway is angled, and those crown-looking structures towards the very top of the or the adornments on the top of the gates. They all have a very common theme, that it's either a bowl or a hoop sort of shape or a basket sort of shape, and it's got the top of it lined with not spikes but triangles going around the rim of the circle. They're always pointed up.
It kind of reminds me of Babylonian architecture.
Yeah, and I actually have a note down here. What I kind of was seeing with it before actually reading what they thought it was kind of influenced with, or what they were going with. I thought more like just Mediterranean, some amount of Central American, and even some amount of Southeast Asian. I see a little bit of elements of each one in here. Mostly Mediterranean.
It reminds me of like, it's like Greco-Roman, right? Like it's like when Alexander went to Egypt and started building Greek things in Egypt, but also using Egyptian architecture, mixing it. You know, it's like that basically.
Yeah. And they are actually saying like for the armor and the equipment for the ogres is more like the just Roman gladiatorial culture, and I think that's actually more appropriate for what ogres are. Is take the Roman Empire, everybody except the gladiators just all of a sudden die one day. What does that gladiator empire build into? That's the ogres basically. That's kind of what I see for their aesthetic and their style, and their mentality a bit too. It's definitely, they have respect in different ways, but definitely seems like a lot of rule by strength, rule by force, and be tough and show off your toughness, show off your kick-ass armor, and strut your thing. Togas, that's an interesting thought. Togas, I don't know, it's not very functional for combat.
No, I don't see them wearing that.
No, not a fan of the toga idea.
Yeah. So other things with the shape language and stuff that we see here, and some of the major features. So like I had said, don't pull out the nature, keep nature in, let it be growing over and spilling around. Cool's ogre build actually illustrates that very well. I definitely recommend checking it out in game. It's he's got the very basics of it kind of going on, but having grass on the roof and having it kind of grassy, mossy, spilling over the edges and stuff, it looks pretty cool. Definitely looks like if you put it in the city, it would work pretty well. And now one other thing, they don't really go with small intricacy, they go with large intricacy. The bricks in the walkway there, that's about the smallest intricacy I would imagine to see. The spiral on the left, that's a giant spiral. That's like 2-3 people tall. So, that's not a small detail. We don't really see any small details. They go for big, ornate detail. Those things that are holding up the banners by the gate, that's the sort of detail they go for. All the little columns and areas where there's those metal brackets that are kind of curling in, that's more their sort of style. Stuff that's it's beautiful and ornate, but in a large way, not in a very small, detailed, like tiny sculptures and relief sort of way.
I think the smallest detail would be like the rivets that hold the big details to buildings.
Yes. Yes, I definitely agree with you there.
I just want to, like, if you're one of the, by the way, if anyone watching, if you're one of the people who have actually created those rivets, I've seen a couple people actually be able to make those rivets on a small scale. hats off to you. I have no idea how you're doing that.
The little offset.
Like the ones that are set. I can make the ones that looks like a pyramid where it's like perfect north, south, east, west. But the ones that are off centered, no idea how they're doing it. Like they're rotating.
Some nasty voxelmancy going on there. All right, so let's see. We talked about that. Large, high surrounding walls. That makes sense. Like everything for ogres is already tall, so it makes sense that the walls would be super tall. Now, something I want to put out to everybody: if you're building using the large brick, you cannot have walls that are too thick. 2 voxels thickness, because that means that your walls are basically made of these big flat rocks. It really doesn't make sense at all.
Like flat.
Yeah, for the large bricks, I found you've got to do at least 12 by 12 by 12 to have it look structural at all, and that's the very smallest for the grid line. So if you're trying to line up the materials, that's also a good consideration. Right. Go ahead.
I wish all the I don't know if you noticed this, but when you're building, the textures that people have been using for ogres, they don't bleed, and I really wish that they would change it to where they did, so that way we can actually put dirt and sand or something on them to make them dirty kind of looking thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Having some of the rougher and dirtier versions and mossed over versions of some of the materials would be really nice. We should definitely communicate that to the team. I guess, do they have a Reddit thread going still for props and materials and stuff that we want? Because if so, that would be the place to take it.
It's probably still there. I don't know if they've kept it updated though.
All right. So we've been looking at this image for a moment. I'm gonna bring up another one here for a sec.
One thing I wanted to mention is I'm kind of, given it's early concept work, but I was kind of disappointed that everything looks so clean. I mean, I know they're sophisticated ogres, but still, I don't like how everything is so clean. Both in the architecture and, I mean, yeah, there's plants growing over it, but pretty much everything is like a clean surface in most of the pictures. Even the roads are pretty clean. And then the ogres also themselves, they're kind of like you look at the ogre female, she's kind of hot. Like the guy, he's kind of hot. It's like, I thought ogres were supposed to be a little bit more brutish. I mean, they can keep the intelligence, but make them a little bit more brutish.
Well, they wanted to make them just less savages this time around in general, so that's some of the stuff they're doing to make them seem more civilized and, I guess, likable.
Well,
you know what? I go ahead.
No, I was go.
I was just going to say they've got to make them aesthetically pleasing somehow. They want players to play them.
Well, I thought that would be.
I'm really surprised that ogres are like a launch race, because, like, of all the races, like, really ogres, like, people are going to be tripping over themselves be playing ogres.
Well, they, in the books they're depicted as just wrecking machines on the battlefield. So I could definitely see the appeal from that.
Somebody, I think somebody mentioned on the Landmark forums of how basically ogres are in EQM seem to be are their like EverQuest version of the orcs from Warcraft. Like they're pretty much like the roles are completely reversed in the two games. In Warcraft, orcs are intelligent and sophisticated, but still brutes. Ogres are, dumb idiots that just, me kill. Whereas in the roles are completely reversed. The orcs in EQN are going to be the dumb brutes, if I remember it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is actually pretty interesting to consider.
50 Shades of Ogre.
Yeah, you guys in your chat there.
Says in the chat.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry.
So some of the shape language and stuff, the triangles, trapezoids, angular cuts, that's some of the major stuff to consider with them. We see there's like kind of a lot of 90-degree and 45-degree stuff being used, little triangles being cut out of things and divots, and things curling in on themselves. We see that kind of in the little shapes towards the bottom left there, the shape of that kind of scroll-like thing curling in on itself. We see a lot of things very similar to that. I saw something in somebody's build on Sunday that had that scroll-like shape, but it was curling outward, and it just took me a moment. I looked like, oh, that looks wrong actually, and then kind of pieced it through and saw, oh no, it's because the ogre stuff, it all curls inward. Every single thing, it all curls inward. That's how they do it. So if you've got some sort of a spirally thing or curvy curly thing, make sure it doesn't terminate by flowing outward, but it curls in on itself. Good detail to if you're really looking to keep things to the style guide. Trapezoids are a good shape. They like those a lot.
What I caught and really stuck with me was when Rosie was trying to explain this idea that in their shape language, like they were showing the columns, and it looks almost, she said it described it like as if the material is bowing.
Yeah, is bowing out from the weight.
Under the weight, like the heaviness up top.
Yeah.
I mean, in an aesthetic language style, not like literally, and I thought that was an excellent way to sort of like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Orgazoidal is what Diggs is calling.
Yeah, that's what they refer to it, I believe, in the workshop show. So, the only place that we really see circular forms being used is horizontal loops and hoops and circles and columns and stuff. We see here that that tree that's in the basket there. It's got the it's got a couple of the triangles pointing off. It's also got some triangles pointing outward, and I'll talk about those in just a moment. And then we see the only other place where we see something that's actually round and cylindrical is the columns themselves. So it's something that's kind of interesting to note, that they like adding triangles, but they aren't necessarily ever going for spikes. So what's going on with that planter there is, if you're standing below it looking up, you're seeing a bunch of triangles leading up to the plant. If you're looking at it from far away, you're looking at the triangles pointing up towards it that are perpendicular to the that kind of array of spikes going towards the forward end. It's triangles that they're communicating, though, not spikes. Most definitely keep that in mind. Right, let's see. So, let me actually bring it to the bedroom here, that interior space. I don't think it's actually a bedroom. But there's a lot of things that are weird about this one that I definitely need to comment on.
I think they purposely do that. That's why I made my bedroom or whatever on my build, and also made the kitchen and the living space, is because they never really provide the living space types concept art. They just give us the outside of the building and then say, all right, what do you think is in there? That's why going inside ogre builds is always just as interesting as the outside.
All right.
Differently.
So this concept art we have here, though, it seems like it's for the wrong game or something, honestly. So I like the fish rug there for the ogre. So were you saying something?
I was just noticing the table kind of stands out. Why is it's like a weird cross pattern on
it? It's a weird cross pattern. It's because while it's that circular cylindrical sort of thing, there's nothing that it really blends it with the other sorts of stuff, especially what we see in the room here. The only other places where we see the fancy riveted metal are that kind of spiky chair back behind the table, as well as some of the rivets on the door.
That chair does not look comfortable.
No, it doesn't.
You're gonna put your arm, stab the bottom of your arm.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's definitely, that's one of those things I feel like where the the parents disciplining the child, and it's like, now sit in the
have to
uncomfortable
sit- you have
chair.
to sit in
Now
the
tell me what you
uncomfortable chair
did.
now.
Exactly.
Okay, it's time out in the uncomfortable chair.
Well, I hit you with this stick or something. I don't know.
The other pop out to me. The arch over the door. I don't think that there should be like ogres.
It's too intricate.
Yeah, I don't. Well, the other thing is just it's a perfect arch. I don't think ogres would use a perfect arch. Like it needs to be the ogre Zordle thing, right?
Yeah, they don't use an arch anywhere. In fact, this is the two wrong things that I see in their build that I definitely want to communicate. Not only the arch, but look at that window on the left. What the fuck is going on with that? Where is that in that cityscape shot? It's nowhere. It doesn't exist.
That looks like like an Asian style window. Like that would look more in place on a Karen building.
Yeah,
than an ogre.
Absolutely. So that's some things where they broke from the style guide on their own to bring us some. Like I said, doesn't seem like it's their ogres. It doesn't seem like this doesn't communicate ogre to me. And the chair on the left, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with it. Is the frame wood? Is the frame metal? I know the cushions for it look like some sort of a woven rattan or something that's kind of tied into place. But what's it actually tied to? Are those pegs that are in it? Once again, is it wood? Is it stone? I have no idea, material wise, how to build that. What the hell I'm looking at?
Maybe they left it for your imagination.
Well, my imagination is like raging on it right now.
Is this actually like SOE? Like an SOE artist released this?
I believe this was something that they showed on. It was either on their forums or on the
I believe both.
Yeah, in the actual show. So no, this is definitely official art from them. But that's what I say. It feels like either the wrong game or maybe they weren't as far along with the style guide and they just maybe they kept some of the features. I do like the columns, the little inlay in the columns. It's about as ornate as I think they would get. Maybe not the trim at the top.
What is that? Is that like a little iron sconce thing hanging from the wall, like behind the candles? It's got like something hanging from it, like I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Is some little, I don't know, like the chain for a candle snuffer or something. I don't know.
A chain for a candle snuffer.
Yeah, I don't know. I figure ogres are tough and they just put out candles with their fingers. Well, do you have a more technical term? I don't know. I didn't study 18th century furniture bullshit. That's not my specialty.
All those candles are made out of earwax.
Yes, they are.
But like the entire door frame, that whole door thing looks more dwarven than. That's weird. It looks like they combined dwarven, ogre, dark elf, and Karen. Like, let's just throw all of it in there.
A little bit. Like the metropolitan ogre rather than the conventional ogre for the an ogre's ogre, I guess, type of build. Not this. Oh, we're going to mingle with the humans and the Karens and the rest of the Combine in our fancy ogre home. Wog. No, wait, no, that's orcs. Anyway.
I watch live, for the record, Diggs. Usually. Most of the times. Can't catch it every time, but most of the times I'm watching live.
What you got here, Mello?
Straighten.
There we go.
Oh. Huh. Stone for the chair. I getcha. Yeah, I guess that works.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
Well, and like Cataclysm in chat, like, you're right. Yeah, every ogre building isn't going to look exactly the same, but like we're saying, is like that the door looks dwarven, the window looks Karen, like everything, like all that stuff doesn't feel ogreish. You look at it, it doesn't feel ogreish. It's like, nothing needs to be exactly the same, but it needs to at least feel ogreish.
Yeah. So there's a few other things that are kind of important that should definitely be mentioned. So I'm gonna bring off the images here for just actually I'm gonna bring up. There is another image I should probably show here.
No more images. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So these aurochs or whatever, these giant dire bovine or whatever that apparently exist in Firot, and they hunt them, and they're very good at hunting them. In fact, it's something that's kind of a part of their culture. So
Like
what was that?
like a rite of passage.
Well, a combination of a rite of passage is just like it's just the things that we farm them, we hunt them. I don't think they farm them, but they hunt them. They do what they need to from them. I'm sure the leather is pretty kick-ass, and that's probably one of the reasons why the ogre leather is so prized, is because they're getting it from a really, really tough source, something that's really, really worthwhile. So pretty cool. But they were saying actually, if anybody can build something like this in Landmark, something that looks like this, that would be awesome. But yeah, they hunt and utilize massive beasts. They eat them. They use the bones. They use pretty much all the parts. I'm sure they use the poop for something. So
Jesus.
So that's fertilizing things. I don't know if they actually garden or anything, but yeah.
Well, if they revere the creature, then the poop might be holy.
Yeah, that's true. They might use it to make their bowls and other.
Guano bowls.
Yes, exactly. So their culture, like we were talking about, it's kind of tough, rule by force. Diplomacy through battle is one of the notes I kind of put down there. Kind of feels like if you're going to negotiate with an ogre, start with your weapon out and get ready to have to deflect a few attacks first.
I hope you don't mean incense, as in like ogres burn the poop or something while in their house. I hope you didn't mean that.
We once got this gag gift. It was poopery. It was potpourri that had cow poop in it, and yeah, it was a gag gift.
I would hope so.
It didn't last for too long.
I would hope that was a gag gift, or you really disliked who you gave that to.
Yeah, we were the ones who received it. So, yeah, I talked about the kind of cultural similarities for the art styles. So we talked a little bit about the idea of ogres earning their scars. And that's kind of an interesting idea. I actually thought that was kind of a cool sort of thing. Some cultures, the ones that engage in like tribal warfare to this day,
we all earn our scars.
Well,
that's a life lesson.
No, let me finish explaining. So there's
I'm just being melodramatic.
Yeah,
right.
No, there's tribes that do this thing called tribal warfare, where they basically have intentionally weaker and dulled weapons, and some event happens where they decide, all right, it's time to go fight, and they all go out like 20 yards away from each other and throw their stuff at each other. Maybe a few people get close enough to hit one another, but it's mostly like dull arrows and dull throwing spears and stuff. And if you get wounded by something, you're supposed to like rub ash and dirt and stuff in the scar, so that way it shows prominently and you can show up, hey, look at this nice scar that I got from a battle.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing I see with ogres, but I kind of like the idea of kind of your most important 3 scars sticking around and the rest going away, and it being something where you designate, like, you got a scar in a major battle against some major tough dude, or someone who you consider to be your rival or whatever. So you keep that scar, you rub the ash and the dirt and everything in it to make it look all nasty and stay around and be really visible. And that's one of your 3 scars that's kind of built into your character.
Instantly, I'm reminded of I think it's Lethal Weapon when Mel Gibson's character he meets that like lady cop, and they're both like obsessed with like showing off each other's scars. Like, oh, I got this.
Yeah, and then Naked Gun does another version of it.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, that was how they ended up making out, was because they were like, "Oh yeah, I got this, and then I got this." And, yeah.
That ogres. That's how they fall in love. Is like showing each other scars.
Oh, of course.
Well, also they're a hot-blooded race apparently. Like they're not only the biggest of the player races, but they apparently are very hot-blooded. They're very warm, so cuddles and all of that stuff. Anyway,
Anyway, we got 10 minutes left in the show,
Yeah,
so you
so-
should probably wrap up whatever is left in this list you want to
yeah, and we just
hit before we call it a night.
just a few of them. So they build their things to last. All along southern Antonica, we're going to be finding all sorts of ancient ogre builds and structures that have lasted through the ages. The ogres themselves, either they moved on, or they got killed, or some calamity happened, or whatever. But the structures are going to be way tougher to take down than the ogres themselves, apparently. So, yeah, that's true. That's true, Maximilian. Shaka Zulu definitely did go through with real spears and really did kill the other side, and then drove a bunch of other people out of there too. So but anyway, they like I had said, they do like to show off to each other. That's why they have the open air structures. That's why they have big massive columns and everything, big open walkways, so you can see everybody showing off going through town. And when you go showing off through town, everybody else can see you. So that's kind of how they socialize. Actually, it's kind of neat. And I think that's really pretty much it for the ogres. That's the notes that I've got. So a bit about how to work with them building wise, a bit about the culture, the background, things to consider. Horizontal circles only. We're looking for spikes. We're looking for triangles rather, not spikes. So don't have things protruding to poke. Have them angled off to the side to communicate that triangle shape. And having like a triangle here and a triangle here and a triangle here, you're going to start creating like a trapezoidal negative space next to it. So that's a good sort of thing. Definitely good stuff to mess with. Com, do you have any suggestions or comments or feedback or tips for people who are working on the ogre build?
No pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just me personally, whenever I'll say the same type of feedback that I give Hannah and Lisk and Gondor, the other three guys that I'm building with. Don't get too intricate. Like a lot of the stuff that if you go to Hannah's build, while it looks great, I'm not saying it looks bad, but it's just you look at Hannah's stuff and Lisk, and a lot of their stuff is like really intricate, and it looks more dwarven because it's so intricate. It's okay to have empty spaces, it's to have a blank wall, and just have the details up at the top or at the bottom. It's just don't do too much. Basically, is one tip.
Yeah, things are meant to be large and grandiose. Like they're not supposed to be itty bitty little detailed. Everything that's part of them showing off is look how large these blocks are that we're using to build with.
Look how massive our structures are.
Our bricks are like heavier than like your buildings.
Our buildings are. Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
What was that?
We're totally not compensating for anything.
Well, they're big. They like to do things big. Go big or go home. That's the ogre's way. All right, so it is definitely time to wrap up here. Thank you all for coming, all you awesome folks in chat. It has been great hanging out with all of you. I'm really happy that you've all come here today, and we're actually going to be doing a quick mini raffle, so everybody get ready to enter. We've got 2 minutes going on it here. Let me give you the entry key. Alright, so get up on that, everybody, and meanwhile I'm going to figure out where we're going to be taking this party, because we can't just end the party here, right guys?
Of course not.
Of course not. So, once again, though, awesome having you guys. And, of course, Adam, always great having you. Com,
thank you.
first time having you back since your first time on. Well, I guess, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But it is most definitely awesome having you on here again finally. And hopefully next time the camera will actually participate so we can... Yeah. So, what was that?
Maybe one day it'll cooperate.
Alright, so I think I know where we're going to bring this party once the raffle is done, and we're going to be doing, giveaway for some of the stuff. By the way, everybody, if you don't know, one last little bit of detail, the Insider program is officially over. It's done.
No!
So, still waiting to hear for what Player Direct is going to be and how it's going to work, and as soon as I do, I will start dishing out those November items, if there's a November item.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't hold your breath if there's going to be a November item.
I don't know if they're going to do a November.
Even if they do replace Insert with Player Direct and they end up doing something, I suspect November is going to fall through the cracks during the transition.
Could be.
But
we'll
anyway,
see. I mean, holiday in the middle of the month does kind of mess things up a little bit. So, all right.
It does.
So we are getting towards the end of it here. We have...
What are we giving? By the way, what were we giving away?
Halloween suit, glass movers, or a 7-day beta key. Because I have a lot of them. What was that?
And a copy of 50 Shades of Ogre.
Yeah, you can go ahead and write that book.
Hey, Maximilian, the author of 50 Shades of Ogre.
Yeah, you know? I guess he is, isn't he? All right, so we're going to bring this party over to a different sandbox. Nobody else is playing Landmark right now. Oh, no. So we have ourselves this awesome game called Crea. It is a 2D sandbox that very much seems like if EverQuest Next was made as a Terraria mod or something. It's a really awesome game. I love it. I love the people who make it. Siege Games, awesome folks. So definitely head over to Nolbro's channel, get some of that action in. We will see you folks later. Have a good one.
See you guys.